Involvement, which is a public involvement consultancy that's based out of Portland, Oregon. And while we provide a lot of different services, one of the things that we focus most of our time on is creating opportunities for community members to get informed and involved with public projects. And a lot of times that involves open houses. In 25 years of business, we've actually run hundreds, if not thousands, of open houses. And what's interesting is that increasingly we've found a decline in interest in open house events. And we've started to ask ourselves, why is this decline in interest happening, and what's wrong with the open house event?
Well, the same people always end up going to the open house event. They're just not representative of the community. I don't know anyone there.
There's just a lot of information, and I'm only interested in one or two things.
I make them more fun. There's never anything exciting there. No.
When I'm interested in a project, I want to hear what other members of the community think about the project, and not necessarily just what staff has to say. There's just a lot of information, and the display boards can be really overwhelming.
The fact of the matter is, if I have a choice in what I need to do, I'm going to go for what's convenient, and open houses just aren't that convenient.
We have a very talented video specialist in our office, as you can see. But as what the people in this video pointed out, there's many more reasons to skip the open house than to actually attend one. So that begs the question, is the open house dead? Increasingly, we've heard that community members would like to have public information available on project websites and online forums. And while I completely agree that these are great outreach opportunities, I don't think that websites can completely replace the open house event. In fact, I actually still believe that open houses are still alive. And I know that the title that's printed in our brochure says the open house is dead, but I firmly believe that the open house is alive. But that said, if open houses are to remain a relevant outreach opportunity, we need to find ways to make the open house event fun and relevant. We need to break down the old formula of running these events and seek ways to engage and inform in ways that people actually want to participate. And I mean, after all, the whole reason for why we're doing public involvement is to get people to participate in our projects. And if they're not coming to our events, then we need to retool. So I'm going to quickly run through a couple of ways that we have retooled the open house event, and they're going to kind of match some of the things that you've heard from people in the video. The first thing is we've heard that open houses are not convenient. And let's face it, if you work weekends or evenings, attending an open house event is completely unrealistic. But one of the ways to get people to participate is to put the project information online, as I've mentioned. But you could do it actually with an online open house. So online open houses are becoming a popular way to gather community feedback, but also inform people about projects in a really convenient way. Several projects that we've held recently, we've held online open houses at the same time as a physical open house. And the online open house actually replicated the exact same station layout, provided the same information, and even replicated some of the same activities that you would find at the event. The biggest advantage to online open houses, though, as I've already touched on, is that they're convenient. People can participate whenever they want to. Online open houses are also fantastic because if your project focuses on a large area, such as a state or region, people can participate from anywhere in that area and not in just one specific city. They're also really helpful for participants because it allows people to participate as much or as little as they would like to. And there isn't the time restrictions that we often find with like a 3 or 4 hour event. People can participate often for at least a week because that's typically how long these events are held online. But that said, I think it's really important to point out that not everybody has access to a computer or the internet, So these online websites cannot completely replace open house events. And as I've also touched on, we tend to, we've found the most success by running these online open houses at the same time as a physical open house and advertising them that way, because that not only allows people to attend both options, but we've found that people tend to attend the actual event itself and then provide further feedback online at a later point in time. And then people can also spread the word about the online open house and kind of pass it virally through email to other people who weren't able to actually participate in the physical event. So we've also heard that open houses tend to have a lot of information, and displays can just be kind of overwhelming. I think that everybody in this room that has created a display board can admit to being guilty to creating some kind of display that makes you cross-eyed with too much information. We struggle with how much background information to provide and what the right amount of technical information is. And what ends up happening is that the messaging gets overshadowed, and the critical information that we want people to walk away with just gets kind of cluttered. So one way, and actually I want to point out, this is a really good example, a real life example of a display board that can make you cross-eyed. Oh, excuse me. So I'm going to actually click on this. One of the ways that we have found success in presenting project overviews is through video. And video is really powerful because it can present a lot of project information in a much more compelling and dynamic way than, say, your standard materials or a display board. And it's great because some people prefer to listen or actually view things instead of read it. And based on the popularity of YouTube, you can definitely see that this is a trend that's starting. But most importantly, the reason why I love video is because they often require a script that needs to be edited, concise, and to the point.
There's so much more to health than just healthcare, genetics, or bad habits. Things like the type of housing you live in, your air quality.
Okay, so it got cut off. And that is one of the things to point out about having, videos, is that you need to obviously have working internet and have YouTube work with you. But this was a video that was created for the Multnomah County Health Initiative, and I think it does a really great job of providing
Transportation, how easy it is to get healthy foods or safe places to walk. These social and
it does a really great job of providing a project overview and laying out each of this project's initiatives. But where I think it's much more compelling than your standard informational materials is that it has staff members and community members telling viewers why this project is important to them in a much more illustrative and compelling way than a document, for example. I also think that videos are really nice additions to websites, but we've found that they're really great at open house events. We've actually had them projected as people walk into an open house event, and it's kind of a nice way to orient people while they're signing in. So it's something to consider at your next event. We've also heard that open houses don't attract all types of community members. And this is something that everybody working in public involvement struggles with. And let's face it, most of the people that are attending these events tend to be property owners that are white and middle-aged or older. That guy. We struggle often to get families, young students, community members of color, and anybody who speaks languages other than English at our events. And part of that is due to scheduling conflicts. It also could be due to just language conflicts, but I also think it has a lot to do with the way we're communicating about the project and the way we're advertising. We've also heard that people feel much more comfortable sharing feedback if they're around like-minded people or trusted friends and family. So it's not about having a representative group of people at your open house event. It's also about creating an event that everybody feels comfortable and welcome to really get involved with the process. So I'm going to walk through a couple of quick ideas of things that we've found have been really successful in reaching out to other community members. The first one is find a community partner with built-in membership that would be willing to host an event. We're currently working with a community partner on one of our projects that has been invaluable because they not only have helped us host events, but their work and activities that they do with immigrant communities in our focus area has actually served as really great. They've provided us a lot of feedback to make sure that our project information is culturally relevant. Another thing is bring project information to events that already exist in the community. I think all of us have probably at some point sat at a farmer's market and told people about our projects. But if you're trying to reach out to Hispanic or Latino community members, for example, the farmer's market might not be the best place to reach those community members. We've actually found some success in working with a pastor at a church that provides Spanish service, and we've brought project information to the church. And what resulted was that it was a convenient place with trusted community members, and it was much more convenient for everyone because they're already there. If all else fails, host an event that offers more than just project information. So you would be surprised who will come to your event if you offer free paper shredding services or if you advertise that the local reptile man will be there. True story. We actually just recently threw a community event celebration, and it had a lot of family-friendly activities. And what we got out of this event was that we had a lot of community members participate in this process that don't typically come to open house events. And they were also able to just get together with neighbors and community members and have a good time. So in the end, it was successful for everyone. Another thing that Kevin and Michael touched on is that community members want to know that they're heard and that they're understood. A lot of times, the reasons why we hold open house events is to gather community feedback on some aspect of a project. And at these events, we tend to have flip charts and comment forms, but those tools, while they're great for staff, they offer very little reassurance to participants that their feedback is going anywhere and that it's going to be incorporated into the project. We've also heard from community members that they would like to be able to hear what other fellow residents are saying about a project and not just the filtered feedback that staff has already reviewed. So we think it's really important to not only be transparent and have an opportunity to show what community members are saying real time, but even better, have this incorporated into your event. So we've used both high tech and just simple activities to do just that, to show people how their feedback is really being used. One of the ways is a popular tool that every PI person has probably used at some point is SurveyMonkey or custom survey tools. What's great about these tools is that they quickly generate graphs or reports that you can then, you can actually create these right after somebody responds to a question, and live in a meeting have these charts or displays as something to discuss. And as Michael and Kevin touched on earlier, it's really nice to have that feedback displayed right then and there instead of waiting 2 months later and a summary later to actually have meaningful dialogue around it. Another thing that we found has been really fun is Wordle. So for those of you who are not familiar with Wordle, it's a free and easy website that actually generates these images based on lists of words that you input. And the size of the words is actually in direct proportion to how many times that word is entered into the website. And so with this example, connectivity was something that, it was a community value that we heard the most from that community, so that's the reason why it's displayed the largest. We've used these as just nice images to welcome people at open house events, but we've also actually concluded meetings with Wordles that actually used key terms that were collected during the meeting, and we just entered them into Wordle, and at the end of the meeting, we had this really great image that clearly reflected everything that we had heard. And it seems simple, but something like this has a lot of, it makes a big impact. We've also had a lot of success with comment maps. And what's great about comment maps is that you can not only read what other people are saying about a project area, you can see what areas on the project map people are most interested in. We have had a lot of success with these recently because we are allowing people to comment on each other's comments, and what results is almost like an online discussion. And so it's great because the project team ends up getting much more valuable feedback than if we just were to have, for example, 1,000 different comments on a map. But it's really important for me to point out that we don't need to use technology in order to show people how their feedback is being used. We have actually found that having something tactile in a meeting, like Bouncy Balls, for example, can be really fun, and it kind of grounds everyone. So we've been using Bouncy Balls for boating activities and different events, and it's great because people actually want to participate in it, and let's face it, Bouncy Balls are a lot more fun than dot exercises. This was actually a boating activity that we did at a high school. And so that brings us back to our original question. Is the open house dead? I firmly believe that the open house is not dead, but if it's going to remain a relevant public involvement and outreach opportunity, then we need to find ways to make it relevant and fun. And I hope that some of these ideas that I shared with you today will make your next event just that. Thank you.